Yo, what's up guys? You got pokeaim here, and today we have a new series on the channel called Aim Higher. Big shout out to Mr. Yink for the nickname. Basically, this is a series that has to do with you guys. So it's a commentary series where you guys are going to submit your teams and as well as your replays. Right, you're going to submit your replays and your teams, and I'll be providing commentary over them and discussing the battles, talking about what could be good, what could be bad, what could be better, you know. And honestly, even if you don't like this type of video, or like watching replays isn't the best thing for you, which is completely fine, I encourage you, if you want to get better at Pokemon, to do this to your own games anyway. Look over your games, look at what you did well, look at what you did wrong. My boy Mr. Emvee has a fantastic book, actually. It's linked down below always, that explains things like this. And it's really good for, I think, taking the next step. But this is going to be a lot of fun because a lot of you guys have asked me in the comments or while I'm live on Twitch or even on my Patreon in DMs would you like to look at my viewer games and would you go over what I did well with it. So today we're going to be doing the first episode of Aim Higher, and I want to give a big shout out to Yink as well, who updated the website so you guys can actually submit your replays. And I don't even care if it's a replay, I don't care if it's a YouTube video, I don't care if it's a Pokemon Battle Revolution battle, you know. If you think it's cool, if you think you did well, if you want to see how you could improve in it, submit it. Now keep in mind, I'm only one person. I'm going to be doing these every Friday. Even though I'll probably get a bunch of submissions, I'm only going to pick a few every single week, but don't worry, just give me time. If this does well, I would love to continue doing this until I, inevitably quit or die. I don't know. Well, until pokeaim is no longer a thing, right? So I don't know why I went so dark with that. But yeah, in order to submit, guys, go to my website, pokeaimMD.com, and click on the Aim Higher tab. And keep in mind, obviously, be appropriate with everything. It's a little warning right here, but you'll give your username or whatever, just so I know what to call you. You can give your social media as well if you want a little shout out to. This is pretty cool too, because I mean, one thing that is always nice is discovering new people, new channels that, especially like high level channels, or even something interesting about the person or the battle or whatever. Is like, oh cool, this is a way that people can actually grow as well, and I'm willing to put it in my platform, and I think it'd be really nice. And obviously link the battle, the replay, or whatever you have here, and then give me some notes, right? Username of who I'm playing against, so maybe if it's like a Wi-Fi battle, let me know who the hell you're playing against. If you have a link for the team that you were using or the other team as well, because that will help me when I go over the game and be like, oh man, they should have went out to Latias because they could have Healing Wish there, but what if you don't have Healing Wish? I have no idea about knowing that unless I watch the entire battle and you reveal Healing Wish, right? But that would be my thought process. So obviously, if you want to submit the team in a poke paste or give me some notes or anything, and just any noteworthy plays, the tier or generation, though obviously if it's a Showdown replay, I could see that myself. And yep, so without further ado, we're going to get into the first episode of Aim Higher. And guys, let me know if you like this, what you don't like about it, what could be different, what could be better. Again, this is the first episode, and this is what I do a lot on my replays, especially in tournaments. Though I'm not in any tournaments right now, but whether I win or lose, I rewatch them and rewatch them and rewatch them and try to figure out what I could have done better, what I did good, what was pretty bad, and how I got back from my plays. And you want to look at what you did wrong, but you also want to praise what you did right, because some of the times you play a tournament game, like me for instance, and I've lost a tournament game, I'm like, crap man, I played terrible, I hated that, I was like, oh wait, I doubled really nicely here, okay, so I just shouldn't have given control here, and it helps you in the next game. So episode 1 is actually going to be an Emvee episode. I asked Emvee graciously, and he was really gracious, excuse me. Well, I mean, I didn't ask him graciously. I was like, yo, give me some games. Nah. I asked Emvee if he would give me some replays as well as even some draft league games, some Wi-Fi battles, because I actually love to do this on my Twitch as well, looking over Wi-Fi stuff. I know I'm talking a lot, but this is the first episode, so I want to get everything right? It's not going to be, I'm not going to introduce it every single time. I'm literally going to say, yeah, next week, yo, what's up, guys? You got episode 2 to Aim Higher, where I'm looking at your replays and we're going over them. Let's get right into it, right? But this is the first one, so I want to do this. So big shout out to Emvee. We're about to go into all of his stuff, and this should be a lot of fun, so stay tuned. Alright, so here at the first battle, and it's Emvee versus Storm Zone. Now keep in mind that this game actually took place during the Isle of Armor metagame, but I asked Emvee for some replays that he thought could show off and could help me with this, so I think this is a pretty good one as well after I saw it. And yeah, that's just so note, like there's just certain Pokemon that are not going to be here, but that doesn't really matter too much. Because this came out, or this team is out June 22nd, this is relatively early in the metagame, which means that a few things. Rillaboom just got its Grassy Glide ability, and we just got Galarian Slowbro, which means that well, Emvee has shell sidearm, so at this point he may not know how to use it. So let's actually look at team preview a little bit before we get into the game. So just a few things that we noticed. That Emvee's running an offensive team with Spike, Stealth Rock, Mew. This is something that Storm Zone might see at team preview, considering it's a little bit offensive variant. I mean, you have Magearna, Rillaboom. You would expect like Swords and its Rillaboom, which he should know that he'd keep Talonflame for. Talonflame is going to be very important in this match because not only does it defog away Mew's hazards, but it also deals a Rillaboom and can pseudo check Magearna depending on the set. We don't know if it's Calm Mind Draining his Stored Power or Bolt Beam or whatever, but Flare Blitz from Talonflame does a good chunk. Also, if it's Taunt, it does a good chunk too. It's also a ground immunity, which is important for Crocodile. Crocodile's dual stab is really nice here with Knockoff and Earthquake. I guess in this case, high horsepower because they do have Rillaboom. So, in terms of Emvee's side, and I guess I'll mark them as well while we're going, but we have Slowbro right here, and Slowbro is going to be good for checking depending on the set. Clefable, Celebi depending on the set as well, and potentially Primarina, because being that natural resistance to the Moonblast as well as being Calm Mind, it's actually a Calm Mind Slowbro. It's going to be pretty good in that regard. You guys can't even see me writing, so I'm just not going to bother doing that for this first episode. I'll do that for the next episode going forward. I didn't realize that that's not something that popped up on the camera, but yeah, so Slowbro is going to be very important for these three in particular. Talonflame is really nice on both sides. In terms of Emvee's side, he should keep Talonflame alive for Magearna. It can check Celebi as well, and even check Clefable in a pinch depending on the Talonflame set and the Clefable set. Like I said, I really like Crocodile, so I think he should try and get it in as many times as possible in a favorable matchup, like on a double or a U-turn from Rillaboom. The Talonflame actually ends up having a U-turn as well, so on a U-turn from Talonflame as well. And kind of just abuse the fact that Crocodile scares out Talonflame, the opposing Talonflame, and can threaten it with Stone Edge and just fire off knockoffs from there. Storm Zone has a Stunfisk, and that might look like a niche pick, but it's actually pretty decent here considering it can check some variants of Magearna. And also, more importantly, it checks Talonflame and can tank Psyshock and Sludge Bomb / Shell Sidearm from the Slowbro. Now, in Storm Zone's defense, just in Team Preview, there's not really much you can do to minimize Quick Draw plus Quick Claw. It's a 43% chance to move first. So there's not a lot they can do, but Storm Zone can definitely position himself. But we're going to go through this game and we're going to see the best ways to do this. Rillaboom is also really weird in this game, right? It's good for smacking Primarina. I think that's all it does, regardless of it getting burnt by Will-O-Wisp from Talonflame or status from anything either. Its only purpose is to check Primarina, really. I wouldn't even say like Stunfish just because it can get static, but basically Rillaboom allows so much free setup for a lot of the teams, so Rillaboom needs to play in a specific way that doesn't do that. Like, if Emvee has an opportunity to Grassy Glide and KO Primarina, but it will mean that Magearna can KO him back and win the game, Emvee should never do that. So that's something to keep in mind. So, let's get into this game. So we have Mew versus Stunfisk lead, Chinese Landers. Obviously, Emvee goes for a very safe taunt. Again, this is very safe. This is your lead Mew. Storm Zone might not think this is Mew offense either. It looks like some weird variation of balance as well, but or bulky offense rather, but just not some hyper offense necessarily. So taunt's pretty safe. You stop Stealth Rock, you stop hazards. Rocks aren't really the biggest deal because heavy duty boots on Talonflame and the rest resist for the most part. Well, some of them. But we do see Storm Zone actually try to go for Toxic, which is maybe even a little bit better that it got taunted, just because if Stunfisk was poisoned, it means it can't check Talonflame as well. And Talonflame is a giant threat for Storm Zone. Flare Blitz plus Brave Bird are, you know, not resisted, but this thing can discharge it back. So we do see a discharge come out, and red card is going to bring out the Primarina. Now, Primarina does reveal the leftovers. Whoops, just smacked my keyboard. Emvee is going to make a good play and go for taunt. He realizes that Primarina gets behind a sub. This could, it could obviously be a problem, especially because Mew can't break the sub unless it's running Explosion in its last move. And some of them at this point in time were running Flare Blitz for Ferrothorn, as well as some variations of Rillaboom, just doing some damage to that. But a lot of them were running Flare Blitz at the time because they'd also die. So Storm Zone expects a taunt and not wanting to be in with that Pokemon, brings out Stunfisk, kind of just trying to throw off some discharges, because I believe Storm Zone's goal right now is to paralyze Mew and then get in Talonflame and defog safely. So we do see a discharge come out, and this is actually relatively safe too because of the Synchronize. It doesn't matter since Storm Zone has an Electric type and it's also Ground type. Well, it's an Electric type, so it can't be paralyzed. Yeah, we do see another taunt. Emvee's just trying to prevent hazards. Now we do see the paralysis happen here. Now, Obviously this is great for Storm Zone because positionally he could just KO Mew, but right now if I'm Emvee, because Mew basically did his job, you got your Stealth Rock up, which are okay, you got your spikes up. I think spikes, I actually would have prioritized spikes if I was Emvee over Stealth Rock. That's something just to go back on. I would have prioritized spikes more, they do more damage overall, and it's very likely that Talonflame is running the heavy duty boots. So I didn't really say that in the beginning because chip is always nice, especially when it comes to Pokemon like Magearna, but that's one thing just to reflect on. This is something I'm seeing as I'm watching the battle for the third time, right? I've already watched this battle multiple times, so that's just something, like, in this case, unless you're able to knock off Talonflame, which I guess Rillaboom can do as well as Crocodile, because that is a defogger anyway, spikes are usually better in this case, because they'll do more damage all around. And obviously Talonflame is also scary to knock off just because of its flame body ability. So right here, Emvee gets paralyzed. Now, the best play for Emvee would have been to taunt because it, yes, they already taunted Stunfisk, but who cares? Taunt wouldn't wear off on Landorus. God, the stupid nickname. Taunt wouldn't have worn off here, obviously, on this Pokemon, but it would have dealt with everything trying to come in. And a paralyzed Pokemon is really easy for something to set up on. So Emvee definitely should have, instead of going for the last layer of Spike, I think that was a little bit greedy, but I think that if Emvee acknowledged the fact that Spike's early, and again, I'm going to criticize, it's constructive criticism. It's my friend, and I'm going to do this no matter what. I do this to myself as well. Had Emvee realized that Spikes were a little bit better early on, I don't think he would have been in this situation. But yeah, Talonflame comes in and clearly defogs away all the hazards. So all of Emvee's hard work is kind of gone there, especially because Talonflame can just pick up a KO. And Emvee doesn't really switch in very well to this Pokemon anyway. Brave Bird and Flare Blitz are very strong, and if it has Will-O-Wisp, it's a problem. So we do see the Brave Bird come out. We can infer that Roost is one of the sets as well. And we are going to see Crocodile come out. Now, because the Talonflame is knocked off, and because Talonflame is very, very, very important in this game as it deals with Rillaboom and Magearna, it's decently safe for Crocodile to go for knockoff here as opposed to Stone Edge. The only drawback would be knocking off Stunfisk and potentially getting paralyzed by Static. So I don't fault Emvee for going for Stone Edge here, as Storm Zone is going to switch out. Now, Storm Zone actually switches out into physically defensive Primarina, which is, I'm assuming, what it is. Yeah, it takes 26. A little bit surprised that Primarina came out there, but then again, the knockoff is something that, if Storm Zone was predicting knockoff, that works out too. Had I been Storm Zone, I think that Clefable would have been a little bit better, as not only does it resist knockoff and it would tank Stone Edge, but you could also recover. So again, there's like turns where you can get more out of it. But in terms of like value from Primarina, it's still good because it didn't take any damage, and it can still deal with Crocodile, and it can still deal with Talonflame. And because Storm Zone does have Pokemon in the back to deal with both Crocodile and Talonflame, the combination of Celebi plus Clefable, for instance, and also Stunfisk for Talonflame, it's not a terrible play that that Primarina came out. So like maybe it wasn't the best play for this turn, but it turns out being good because Primarina obviously wasn't knocked off, and now Emvee's in a situation where, okay, crap, I don't have anything for Scald. Like, what am I gonna do? So obviously, Emvee cannot go right out to Magearna on the Primarina. At this point, Storm Zone has all of his Pokemon, and a lot of them are 100%, and the two Mons that deal with Magearna are healthy. So Emvee decides to make the Rillaboom play, again, which I don't think is a terrible play. It's only here for Primarina, and even if it gets burnt, which it does, great play on Storm Zone's part, just acknowledging the fact that it's Scald, no switching. Even if it does get burnt, it still knocks out Primarina with a banded Woodhammer. Or at least does a ton, to the point where Talonflame or everything else does well. So this is a really good switch, or U-turn rather, on Emvee's part. Very good U-turn on Emvee's part. Acknowledging the fact that Primarina is still good for the opponent. They're not going to stay in if they give the up Primarina. Opens up Talonflame a little bit more because it's probably physically defensive. But it also opens up Crocodile a bit more as well, since again, it being physically defensive. The rest don't really like knockoff with Stone Edge, plus high horsepower or whatever. So Emvee brings out Galarian Slowbro, and at this point, it's kind of new in the metagame, so we're not 100% sure what it does, right? But we are going to see Emvee go for the Calm Mind, probably Calm Mind plus Slack Off, as Stunfisk comes out, and we see Rocks. Now, I think Rocks were a little bit greedy on Storm Zone's part. I mentioned it before, how Rocks didn't do anything versus Storm Zone himself. Spikes was better. Kind of similar with Emvee. Talonflame is most likely going to be running heavy duty boots. Crocodile resists rocks. Primarina resists rocks. Magearna resists rocks, and Rillaboom is already burnt. So it's not like you really have to wear them down, right? They're not, and you're not going to be wearing them down either, because the Pokemon that resists the Stealth Rock, if they get Grassy Terrain recovery, they get it all back. So you're not really wearing down the opponent, and you're giving Emvee a free Calm Mind, which is very important considering Calm Mind Slowbro is extremely threatening, especially if it is Quick Draw, Quick Claw, which I know it is. And this is why also I want you guys to submit your sets when you do it too. But we are going to see a Calm Mind from Emvee as Earth Power does come out, just 29%. And again, had they Earth Powered twice, this Slowbro would have been way lower because it does 29% after the second Calm Mind. So this Slowbro would have been like in the 38% range, right? Or something lower than that. And Stunfisk could safely beat it 1v1 while still being healthy enough for Talonflame, and Primarina still being healthy enough for Talonflame too. So I think that was a pretty big misplay, and Emvee is really capitalizing on it. And we do see Talonflame come out right here as Emvee goes for another Calm Mind. What a demon. And we do see the Quick Draw, Quick Claw come out. So again, this hurts Storm Zone because he doesn't have prior damage on Slowbro for something to be able to beat it 1v1. However, this is something that could have easily been avoided had Stunfisk went for Earth Power. Like, it basically would have been a 1v1 unless it was Slack Off. At this point, we don't know if it's Slack Off or not because it's running Quick Draw and Quick Claw. So, we do see Talonflame go down, opening up the ground weakness. So amazing for him. We do see Clefable come out. Now this is interesting. This has to be unaware Clef. Like, right else would you bring out Clef unless you're Trick and trying to give it like a Sticky Barb or something. But at that point, you're kind of just giving up Clef, which opens up Crocodile even more. So we see Clefable go for Calm Mind, and we see how, well, we see Shell Sidearm, which again, we weren't 100% sure how this move worked back then too. But does only 38% to the Clef. So we're going to assume that it is unaware. We do see a second side shot come through, and there is confirmed unaware as Flamethrower comes out and does 35. And at that point, had Storm Zone went for Earth Power, this second one would have knocked them out. And this would have been a very tough Pokemon for Emvee to knock out because Crocodile doesn't KO with High Horsepower. Rillaboom can Banded Woodhammer, but that invites in Celebi and Magearna to potentially set up. And Magearna, it's unaware, so unless it's stored power on the Magearna, it can't break through this Clefable either. So we do see the crit come out here. Now, again, that really hurts Storm Zone, but first off, there's a 43% chance that it moved first the next turn anyway. But that really hurt Storm Zone, but that was a position that didn't necessarily have to happen had they clicked Earth Power. So you're seeing how, like, it wasn't, it's just like, I'm trying to drill in you guys that, you know, don't just click Stealth Rock just because chip damage is chip damage, you know? This is like worst case scenario for Storm Zone. Clefable is gone. So unaware Clefable, which might have beaten like a lot of the team, is gone. And now you have to worry about Psyshock. So Stunfisk comes out. We do see the Earth Power come out, though. Thankfully, Stunfisk isn't hit. So this is really big considering it could still deal. It could still deal with basically everything. Like, it's really good versus Magearna. Well, it's decent versus Magearna, depending on the set, and it's good versus Talonflame. So we see Crocodile come out, and this is really interesting. I really surprised that Storm Zone stayed in here. He must have thought that this Crocodile was some sort of power trip one, but when you see Crocodile come in and click Stone Edge on, and it's Earthquake by the way, not High Horsepower. So that, I mean, obviously helps the fact that Rillaboom is now. But when you see it click Stone Edge, I guess you can kind of infer from that position that it's not gonna be a bulk up variant. I understand the Toxic, but at that point, you still had Celebi, and Celebi has zero use in this game besides dealing with Crocodile, right? Like, Celebi has no use in this game besides dealing with Crocodile. So letting this thing take Earthquake really opens up Talonflame a lot, and Emvee's just, you know, making his best play, clicking Earthquake, because if Celebi comes out, you get a free Talonflame. So Emvee has a switch into that. So this is, again, a little bit of a misplay, I think, on Storm Zone's part, especially because if he wanted to make a play, going Celebi on the Crocodile and then doubling into either Primarina or Stunfisk would have gotten him more out of the turn. But instead, he sacks the Stunfisk to Earthquake. So again, really good for Emvee. Definitely not the best play on Storm Zone's part. So we see Celebi come out. Rillaboom is going to come out here, which isn't terrible. You want to scout for potentially Thunder Wave, so you don't want Talonflame. You know that Talonflame can revenge kill it. You know that Scarf Crocodile's knockoff can revenge kill it. So Rillaboom is cool because depending on the set, it might not be able to knock you out. You still get a 4 times effective U-turn off, and we do see that it's Swords Dance on the set. So we see Leaf Blade come out. It's going to be able to knock out the... that's really cool, by the way, that Swords Dance, that. We see Leaf Blade come out. We do see U-turn from Talonflame as well, which is, I think, the best play, and Emvee actually ends up bringing out Crocodile. Very aggressive play, but really nice as well, because if it's Swords Dance, it probably has that headbutt or Psycho Cut, which it gets now. And at this point, if Crocodile can revenge kill this, Magearna shouldn't be the worst case, because as long as Talonflame is full, Magearna cannot KO it in one hit. So this is like a strong position, but also a scary position for Emvee too, because depending on the Magearna set, it could still be a problem. And the Primarina at this point is still looking like a huge problem. So that SD Leaf Blade really threw Emvee off guard, I feel. Like, because it got rid of Rillaboom, which was a still always pseudo check to Primarina. So it's going to be really close here, this end game, depending on Magearna's how well they play. So we do see Zen Headbutt come out. Again, really nice play on Emvee's part, but positionally, it's tough. It's tough to say if that was the best play, because at this point, you have a few options. You could go out into Primarina, or you can go Magearna. Now, Stormzone opts to go out into Primarina. Now, if this was Calm Mind, Scald, Draining Kiss, Primarina, opts to go Magearna, excuse me. If this was Calm Mind, Scald, Draining Kiss, Primarina, that may have been the better play, considering you just Calm Mind up, you have leftovers and grassy terrain on your side, and it's really tough for Emvee to break that Primarina and revenge kill it as well. So we see that Magearna go for the Calm Mind, tanks the Flare Blitz with ease as Thunderbolt comes out and knocks them out right there. But as you see, because Emvee saved Crocodile, he's able to go for Earthquake, but because they didn't go Primarina, you can't just like shrug off the Brave Bird and then go for Scald and knock him out. So and because this is physically defensive on the Magearna as well, there's no way Crocodile's Earthquake would have knocked it out from full. So what I'm saying is that it may have been better for Stormzone to go Primarina. I would have to run calcs and see how the actual game goes out. But from this position, you click Safe Earthquake, you pick up the KO, and now you get a nice Safe Earthquake off on the Primarina as well, which is forced to attack you. Yeah, 43%. So it's I thought it was forced to attack you there, considering how little that does. But you should definitely Calm Mind up again here, because you'll be in Torrent range, and you're actually going to be able to do a good chunk to Magearna. So this is still very, very scary, especially if Primarina is faster than Magearna. So Magearna ends up being faster, which is probably a saving grace, considering, yeah, this would have been able to 2-hit KO with ease. And because of that, Emvee's actually able to Draining Kiss just outside of range. Just outside of range, and surviving 1 HP and able to beat the Primarina 1v1. So again, really good, really close game. I still think few key turns, especially because Talonflame would have been really nice for Magearna, and just like if they had not played the Clef that way as well, I just would have been really strong. And obviously, even being able to paralyze potentially Magearna with Stunfisk too. So I do think that Toxic was really iffy of a play. Especially because it forced Magearna to be sacked, whereas if Magearna's in, it doesn't really lose too well. Now, this is definitely stored power. If it's Calm Mind Draining Kiss, it most likely was stored power. So that makes a big difference as well in the end game. Stored power may have been able to overwhelm like Clef and stuff with enough boost, even when unaware, because stored power just keeps boosting anyway. But I mean, Clef is still boosting, it has Flamethrower too. So I do think there were a few misplays that Emvee really capitalized on. The big one was just setting up with Slowbro and Stormzone not doing his thing. So that's the first game that we had that we're going over. So I just want to note that this first episode is going to be relatively short. I'm actually going to save some of the Emvee replays and games. I appreciate him giving me a whole bunch for a later video, because I think some of them are actually really good for showing off a few things. But the actual episodes are probably going to be very long, like especially because some of the Wi-Fi battles are very long itself. I am saying, like, you might even get 2-hour videos every Friday from me of me looking through your replays. And again, just to show you that I do not care when or what game it was. It was something you're proud of or whatever, you let me know. I'll watch it. This is an X and Y OU game, and this is finals. This is finals of Smoke on Tour week. It's a week. It's season 18, week 7, X and Y OU. It's Sunday, and this is finals of it. Emvee's playing Pokebasket. So he didn't win Smoke on Tour, but if Emvee wins this, he did win that week of Smoke on Tour. So this is X and Y OU. Now that means that this is a Mega Gardevoir, and there's Pursuit in the game, and there's Hidden Power, and Keldeo is a threat, and Greninja is not banned yet, still a threat. And that's where we go. So as you can see from both sides of the team, Emvee actually has a pretty decent matchup, I would say. The opponent is running Sand with Tyranitar and Excadrill, which means that Rotom is automatically going to be very important, especially because they have Greninja as well as Landorus. So Rotom is kind of going to be really Very important here defensively, just for Excadrill, but also it's something that Pokebasket should see to overwhelm, because Excadrill can be pretty good here, especially with using Amoonguss to pivot in on something like Keldeo every single time, and even pivot on Landorus as well. You do see Landorus Eye from the opponent as well. That's something that's a little bit annoying, considering Pokebasket does a pursuit in the back with Tyranitar. So, and especially when you see Latios and Keldeo, this is a very common pair that you saw ever since Black and White, right? That you saw them, and a lot of times you'd see Latios come out and a double to Keldeo or a double to Terrakion would come out right after that, just to deal with the Tyranitar coming in. So this is something that Emvee might be seeing they could do. Gardevoir on this team is Substitute, and that's a really good Gardevoir set, because Gardevoir will always force out, if Sand is gone, Excadrill, and it will also force out Dragonite as well as Amoonguss. So Sub Gardevoir is phenomenal here. In terms of defensive backbone, in terms of checks to Landorus, you have Latios, you have Keldeo as an offensive check, and then you have Rotom as well, which needs to get Focus Blast. Latios needs to be knocked off if it even has it, which I don't think that was very common in early XY. That's not something we always ran too much. It was usually special, but it could have been. Rotom deals a lot with that. Greninja is obviously a threat, and it's Protean, so HP Fire is something that was common at this point. Extra Sensory is something that they could run. Ice Beam. So this is a Pokemon that doesn't really have any switch-ins, but as long as like Rotom's out versus it, Landorus is Scarf on Emvee's team, by the way, or Ferrothorn's out, like defensively, it can deal with them. Amoonguss can't Spore Ferrothorn, so that's always a pretty good switch, unless it has HP Fire. Ferrothorn's main job is to pivot on that, maybe check Excadrill. So again, Emvee wants to really get in Keldeo as well as Gardevoir and abuse their offensive prowess, but also the fact that they can't be trapped, right? They can't be. Latios is incredible offensively, right? It's amazing. Look at Draco Meteor, right? You just drop a Draco. There's no Fairy type on the other team. However, and they have a Steel type, but it's a makeshift Steel. It's Excadrill. It's offensive Excadrill too, so it barely takes it. However, if Pokebasket traps it, that opens up Landorus, and that makes it one less threat. So he really has to be careful with that. So in terms of if I was Emvee, how I'd lead, the two leads I would do would be Rotom, just because defensively it deals with everything besides Amoonguss, or Gardevoir, because whatever Gardevoir doesn't deal with, aka Greninja or Sludge Wave Landorus, you can switch out into either Rotom, Ferrothorn, or Latios on. So I think Gardevoir is a fantastic lead. And whoops, we do see Gardevoir being this great lead versus Amoonguss. So he does Trace to Regenerate. This is amazing, especially because, again, a lot of Gardevoirs back here were either Taunt 3 attacks, Wisp 3 attacks, or Sub 3 attacks. In early X and Y specifically, they started running Calm Mind a little bit more as well at times. But this is such a great position for Emvee, because he gets basically free damage, free attacks. Like you can either Psy Shock or you can Sub. Sub is great for avoiding the Spore. Now I understand the Amoonguss play, because like I said, Rotom is a very good lead as well, and that either offered him a free Hidden Power Fire or Spore as a lead. So this is great, because Emvee can just go right for a safe substitute, as the opponent ends up going out to Tyranitar on the Psy Shock. Now Gardevoir decides not to Mega Evolve, which makes sense because they can keep the Trace. They can keep the Regenerator if they switch out instead of getting Pixelate, but obviously in this position, when Tyranitar is in, you want to hit what's in front of you. So the opponent actually, Pokebasket, ends up going from Tyranitar into Excadrill here, which, I mean, makes sense. You don't want to lose your Tyranitar, because Latios will go ham, and Emvee gets off a Hyper Voice. Now, obviously, Emvee's running Focus Blast, and this is, again, you don't need to always pick up a KO where damage is damage. That's why I want y'all to remember. You don't need to pick up a KO, because damage is damage. This Excadrill, especially because it's on a balloon, so it doesn't have leftovers or anything, right? That's more of a newer thing, though a lot of the older gens are starting to reflect on that too. This Excadrill, I loved X and Y OU, by the way. I went crazy X and Y OU. But this Excadrill, if you damage it, it's still it gets knocked out by everything. Rotom checks it indefinitely, because it can't Earthquake, because we know it's Sand Rush. We didn't see Mold Breaker, and it's running on the same thing. And yeah, that's why it's better just to go right for the Hyper Voice a second time. And this Hyper Voice allows, basically Excadrill can never come in again if Stealth Rock are up. Well, it can come in if Stealth Rock are up, because it'll take 3. But it can't really come in on a move. So Emvee makes a really good mid-ground, which is going out into Rotom Wash right here. Now, there's two things Emvee can do here. Emvee can Volt Switch, because Excadrill can't do crap at all. Especially because Excadrill is on a balloon as well, that leads us to believe that's also Rapid Spin. So this is the Rapid Spin support. So it's like Rapid Spin, Iron Head, Swords Edge, Earthquake. That's the typical one. Even though Talonflame is a giant threat in XYOU. Rest in peace, Talonflame as a threat. But so Emvee can Volt Switch here. But Will-O-Wisp is also relatively free too because it deals with three things. It deals with Extra coming in, it deals with Amoonguss being able to wear it down, which is very important considering Ferrothorn is an almost indefinite wall on Amoonguss as long as it doesn't have Hidden Power Fire, and obviously Will-O-Wisp also weakens Foul Play. It also deals with Landorus wanting to come in too, and obviously weakening Landorus is very important because burns at this point do 12%, right? So that 2 turns of burn means that Landorus gets 2-hit KO by Stone Edge from Scarf Landorus. So this Landorus will get 2-hit KO by Stone Edge from this Landorus. So Will-O-Wisp is a fantastic play. Volt Switch gets you momentum out of the turn, but that's not that necessary because let's think about what Emvee would do if he got momentum, right? So let's say Emvee Volt Switched here. And again, you want to think about, this is why thinking about these this stuff comes really quickly to you the more you play. Like me, I think about these plays as I'm playing. But if Emvee Volt Switches here, and he Volt Switches on Amoonguss, and he decides to keep up offensive momentum and bring out Gardevoir, what do you do from there? Do you Psyshock, and then potentially like Greninja come in on the Psyshock? The Tyranitar's at full HP too. So like instead of making it a prediction, make the play that doesn't need Emvee to predict. So this is why Will-O-Wisp is the best play right here, and he does go for it if I'm not mistaken. Yep, goes for Will-O-Wisp right on Amoonguss coming in, and this is great because whenever Sand is up plus burn, it cancels it out, and now you can Volt Switch in front of Amoonguss safely, and you have a free Ferrothorn which can't be spored. We do see Giga Drain come out, just Pokebasket making the safest play. Now at this point, rocks are very tempting, considering chipping Greninja. There's no heavy duty boots, so Dragonite being worn down, its multi-scale is broken. It's actually really interesting to see Dragonite plus Sand. Not something you saw a lot back then. But you get up rocks to wear that thing down. Obviously you chip away at Drill, and it can't spin if Ferrothorn's in because you can't spin versus an Iron Barbs user if you die to the Iron Barbs. So we do see Stealth Rock go up. The other option was Emvee going for Gyro Ball or Power Whip, and Landorus comes out as well. Now Landorus can be, again, it can be offensive, it can go for Sludge Wave, it can go for Hidden Power Ice. It's in front of Ferrothorn though, so Focus Blast makes a lot of sense as well. Now Ferrothorn's at full HP, but Emvee switches out because, again, this is smart. You don't know what type of Greninja it is. You don't know if it has Hidden Power Fire yet. It's also, Ferrothorn's also a pseudo check to Dragon Dance Dragonite because +1 Fire Punch doesn't knock out Ferrothorn for full HP, whereas Gyro Ball does a lot, plus Iron Barbs. So it's smart of Emvee to switch out into Ferrothorn. That's just a good all-around play. Pokebasket acknowledges the fact that this is an important piece in Emvee's, in order to win. So they go for Stealth Rock here, which I think is also decent considering, this would have been better. I'm gonna be completely real. This would have been a lot better had Excadrill not been at 5%, because with Stealth Rock up and the fact that Emvee has a Scarf Landorus and that you have Pursuit Tyranitar and you have Greninja to wear things down, Excadrill could have been a giant threat. So I need you guys to really acknowledge, like even with Emvee having checks to it, Excadrill still would have been a giant threat. So I need you guys to really acknowledge the fact that these turns went so well for Emvee. And him going for Hyper Voice turn 3 and just to damage Excadrill as opposed to going for Focus Blast and potentially missing, 70% of the time, Excadrill is dead, right? But 100% of the time, you get damage off by going for Hyper Voice was such a big thing. And I want you guys to acknowledge that this was a good play. So, you're probably like, okay, Joy, whatever. I'm just trying to drill it into people like to understand, like, there's a purpose for the play. So Latios comes out, and Emvee makes a pretty good, I would say a pretty good double here. Now, obviously, this double covers two things. It covers Tyranitar coming in. This is something I mentioned, especially because this is early XY as well, 2014, early XY. Well, not early XY, but wasn't XY 2013? This isn't even early XY, right? When did XY come out? 2013, right? Was it 14? 13? It was 13, whatever. This is something that they did, either way. Right? This is something you see. So this is a really good double because it covers two things. It covers potentially like Sludge Wave or Hidden Power Ice if Landorus is crazy and wants to stay in. And it also covers Tyranitar coming in, and it gives Emvee a really offensive position. Pokebasket made a really, and this was a really good play on Pokebasket's part. Acknowledging the fact that Landorus is a big threat if it comes in, and defensively Amoonguss deals with Keldeo and Dragonite as well, depending. They decide to sack Excadrill to Latios. That way they can get the free Pursuit Trap with Tyranitar. So that was a good play on both parts. Emvee not letting that happen because his play covered that as well, but also Pokebasket trying to go for that play too. So we do see the double or the switch right back out into the Amoonguss right here, as that 12% burn makes Icy Wind look like a solid 2-hit KO. So now Drill dies to hazards, which is important, as well as the fact that Amoonguss is, I mean, this Keldeo just does so much damage to Amoonguss. What the hell, man? 41% is insane. So Emvee decides to go for the roll right there. Now, if it was me, I actually wouldn't have went for the roll there, just because first off you can miss and whatnot. But I mean, it was most likely that actually would come out. So like in that situation, I don't think I would have went for the roll. I think I would have went Feral Thorn in that position because it covers Spore if you don't get the roll. But at the same time, if Amoonguss died, Rotom destroys Pokebasket. So it makes sense why they wouldn't make that play. Because Rotom would not... Rotom just Hydro Pumps and Volt Switches on everything, right? And beats them all. So from that position, it made more sense to actually roll. So it makes sense why he went for Icing Wind as well. And then Greninja comes out here, which is more offensive than Amoonguss. And obviously Greninja's packing extra sensory. That's the only reason why it would come out. So Emvee's going to make the Scout out into Ferrothorn, which is a good mid-ground Scout. The reason why Emvee doesn't sack Gardevoir is because if Gardevoir comes in on Tyranitar or Amoonguss, it basically gets a kill because he just clicks Hyper Voice for free. So I believe this, he doesn't sack Gardevoir, right? He goes Rotom Wash. Now, this is a little bit... This play... I didn't like too much because, I'm being completely honest, I feel like Rotom Wash did so much versus the opponent. Again, being able to burn even Dragon Dance Dragonite, dealing with Landorus and forcing it to go for Psychic, which doesn't kill. If it's at full HP versus Greninja, it gets chipped for Landorus as well. I feel like it was more so in Emvee's favor to go Ferrothorn here because, again, Ferrothorn is a check to Dragonite, but you have Scarf Landorus or Stone Edge as well at the end of the day. So, Rotom coming out, just let it get hurt for no reason. And put it in range of Landorus. So we do see the double out into Ferrothorn, and Emvee is going to scout for the Hidden Power Fire and go for Protect. But from this position, it's now you're in this position where you have to sack something. I mean, either way you have to sack something, but he's just trying to get chip right here. So it just sucks because Rotom became a very it became something that just died. So that, I mean, Pokebasket did that well, but I think that Emvee shouldn't have went Rotom. I think Ferrothorn could have been sacked. And then what you would have been able to do was go out into Rotom and you did click Hydro Pump or Volt Switch safely, and then get in Gardevoir and just get a kill with Hyper Voice 100% of the time. So that was a little bit of a misplay on my part, in my opinion, but that can be argued for as well, and depending on the Dragonite set. So that's more like in the moment misplay, but in hindsight it might not be a misplay, depending on the Dragonite set and what the Landorus is packing as well. Because if Ferrothorn does come in on Amoonguss and it clicks Gyro Ball or Power Whip, it can kind of get kills. So it's tough to say. But if that's the regard, like what Emvee could have also done was just sack Gardevoir. Even though it did get a kill when it came out, denying Greninja kill and allowing Rotom to pick up 2 pieces potentially, because not only weakening Greninja but also picking up another Pokemon makes a lot more sense. So I understand why he's keeping Gardevoir, and I mentioned before why he keep it. So it's just a lot of things to think about right here. But Pokebasket ends up going for Ice Beam, which is a good mid ground. A little bit risky, to be honest. Like if Landorus got weakened, that's great for Dragonite anyway, so a little bit itchy. But I mean, it doesn't matter right here. So Greninja's able to pick off the Rotom, and at that point, we know that Specs Keldeo, if I'm not mistaken. So Landorus is going to come out, and from this position, you either click Earthquake or you click Stone Edge. Now Emvee clicks Stone Edge, and this is where, you know, look how much that does to freaking Landorus. That's crazy. Emvee clicks Stone Edge here, which is fair because it doesn't allow Dragonite in, and you know, if Landorus is in, you can't have the Intimidate immediately on Dragonite, so it can Dragonite's up, and it can be a problem. So, click Stone Edge. There was a risk of missing there. The other option was to U-turn, even though it was Fire type, just because you get a little bit of chip, and then you switch out into Ferrothorn to take 2 turns of Life Orb, and then it's gone. But this does allow Emvee to potentially click a second one. Now, from that position, I would not have went for a second Stone Edge. The reason being is that at this point, Landorus is now at what, 28% after Stealth Rock. You have Keldeo, which is faster. You still have your own Landorus, which can beat it down as well. Ferrothorn doesn't die at the range it's at. So from that position, I understand Emvee wanting to pick up the KO, but risking HP Ice and throwing away your potential Scarf Landorus, if it is HP Ice, throwing away your Scarf Landorus opens up Dragonite so much because Ferrothorn already took damage. Keldeo is in range of Outrage. Extreme Speed KO is Gardevoir, and then you can Outrage this. So I think that second Stone Edge was a little bit greedy, and that the Latios play and just clicking Draco Meteor, because even KOing Tyranitar at that point doesn't, it's not like it's a big deal. Like Landorus can safely late game as well. What I'm basically saying is that like you can keep your Stone Edge luck for later. Not that it works that way, but you get more out of the turn, I think, by clicking by going Latios and just dropping a Draco. Even if Tyranitar pursuit traps you, that you just get a kill with Keldeo, and then you force in Greninja to extra sentry, you sack Ferrothorn, and then eventually you can just U-turn out with Landorus, and all the opponent has left is Dragonite plus Landorus versus a Keldeo that can come in and click Icy Wind. So as you can see, I just wrapped up the game right there by not clicking Stone Edge, but by going Latios. And then you would have been a Gardevoir or Herbivore. So I think there was a safer way to do this than clicking the second Stone Edge and potentially taking damage. A lot of damage for either HP Ice or Dying or Psychic, which would do enough for Extreme Speed. So misses the Stone Edge on Amoonguss. That's whatever though, because Emvee can just go right out into Ferrothorn. Now, I would have liked to see a double from the opponent here, especially when you're in the back like this, because Emvee is clearly up. Emvee is clearly up, right? Amoonguss is burnt and can't touch Ferrothorn. Greninja is at less than half. Landorus is at less than half. Dragonite has to take Stealth Rock. And Tyranitar at this point is kind of a liability. It only comes in and traps Latios. So I would have liked to see a double from the opponent, especially because Stone Edge missed and you can't do anything. But instead they go for Giga Drain. So this is the opponent using an opening and not really, especially in finals of X and Y OU, of an X and Y OU tour. Just going for Giga Drain was just, it was not the play. Like, bro, you don't even kill. You don't kill anything by clicking Giga Drain. You don't KO Gardevoir. You don't KO Latios. You don't KO Landers. You don't even KO Keldeo. So it doesn't do anything for you by going for that. So they should have doubled here into something that could threaten Ferrothorn, whether it be Greninja or that. And Emvee is going to completely capitalize it because he has no reason not to click Gyro Ball. Very good play on going Ferrothorn. I would have, like I said, I'd like the opponent to do something besides Giga Drain. You're just not giving a free turn because Emvee just throws off a Gyro Ball here and he picks up Landorus. And that means that if Dragonite dies, he clicks Earthquake. But Greninja comes out, and this is very important too because he can sack Gardevoir. And at that point, it makes sense to sack Gardevoir. Extreme Speed KOs you. You don't have to predict anything. Ferrothorn now just becomes something that annoys the hell out of Amoonguss. And this is all because, you know, the ground types, I think, were not played the best. And Emvee played around them better than I think the opponent played their ground type. So we see Gardevoir go down to the Ice Beam there, and Water Shuriken isn't something you see on Greninja because it kind of sucked back in X and Y if I'm not mistaken. So Landorus can just come out and go right for U-turn, and at this point, okay, I don't personally like the Keldeo play. I'm gonna explain why. You miss Icy Wind, Keldeo can go to sleep. And, I mean, it's not a losing play because if Emvee hits Stone Edges, it doesn't matter. But Keldeo is like your best bet versus Tyranitar. Like, better than, and this is Mega T-Tar too, as well. Like, it's potentially Dragonite's Mega T-Tar. So, by him going out to this Pokemon, it still gives Tyranitar a chance to set up. The other thing that what Emvee could have done was, defensively, he could have just went Ferrothorn. If Emvee went Ferrothorn there, it just clicks Gyro Ball until something dies. It gets a KO on this, it 2 KOs this, and it 2 KOs Tyranitar. So now if this is Dragon Dance Fire Punch Mega Tyranitar, the turns of Stealth Rock and whatnot and 2 DDs, because you can get a second DD in front of Landorus unless it's running Superpower, because it won't kill with Stealth Rock, means that Tyranitar can win. So this Icy Wind actually opens up Tyranitar a lot, and this is something that Emvee might not have been thinking about too. Because again, while I was talking about this Tyranitar being Pursuit, we always have to keep in mind that this could be Mega as well. So, and then something like X and Y, you know, hindsight again. But yeah, so Tyranitar comes out. Emvee's going to go hard Ferrothorn as it Mega Evolves and goes for Dragon Dance. And again, had this been Fire Punch, this would have been a problem here. And this is why I think just throwing off Dracos would have been fine. Because even if Tyranitar came in and Dragon Dance early, your Keldeo was at damn near 100%. And Secret Sword would always knock it out. And you live +1 Earthquake. But it turns out it's only Earthquake. Which is really, really good for Emvee. Because now you're able to just safely 2 KO it and not lose to Tyranitar. So that endgame really became a lot scarier than it should have been right there. As Dragonite comes out, all Emvee has to do is click Gyro Ball because it doesn't let Dragonite Dragon Dance. Brings out Keldeo here to click Icy Wind on the Dragonite, which I guess is completely fair at that point. Yeah, Icy Wind is fair. Because now Greninja comes out, and at that point, you just go out to Landorus and win the game. So, I feel like there was, like I said, a few... That I didn't like the Icy Wind turns because you mess around a lot with... you mess around a lot with accuracy, but it's 95, to be fair. It's 95, but you also allow... And obviously, like, in the end, it was better to go out into Keldeo than to go out into Latios, for instance, because Draco Meteor has a 5% more chance to miss than it's 90 versus 95, right? But the other option what Emvee could have done, considering Latios did nothing, was still gone out into Latios and click Psyshock. It does enough to Dragonite to either die to Life Orb or kill it with Secret Sword after, and Landorus wins the game with U-turn. So again, this was a game where Emvee was mainly in control. However, the end game became that because he opted to go out into Keldeo here and click Icy Wind, where, as again, on turn 23, had they went Latios and clicked Draco Meteor and Tyranitar came out, you go hard Keldeo at 88% and you click Secret Sword, you pick up the KO, and that's it. If the Pursuit traps you, that doesn't matter. You basically get a 2-hit KO on something, because you're Specs as well. It's Specs Keldeo. So you get a 2-hit KO with Secret Sword on offensive Dragonite with Rocks Up and Sand, or you KO Tyranitar, and Greninja has to deal with its own Sand. It has like 1 hit left because of Sand and Life Orb and everything. So Emvee could have had a cleaner game. And this is back in 2014, so it doesn't really matter like at the end, but it's just something good to analyze. Could have had a cleaner game by going out into Latios there, in my opinion, because then you just hard switch into Keldeo, and there's nothing Tyranitar can do. So again, I do think though that Pokebasket could have played their ground types way better. I think that potentially Excadrill could have been a little bit better, but it was also really hard too. What I would have done personally, I think, is if I was Pokebasket, instead of going out into Drill on the first one, or on Amoonguss, instead of going Tyranitar, I think that the better play offensively was to go Landorus, because you can break a potential sub, but you also live Psyshock, and then you either get up rocks if they don't sub, or you threaten them. Because again, Excadrill was pretty good in this game, in my opinion, especially because Tyranitar opens up for Excadrill. Tyranitar weakens everything, so. And Landorus only attacked this entire game with Stealth Rock. It never... Look at this. The opponent's team gets Sludge Wave, Earth Power, Focus Blasted to held him back. But this Landorus only clicks Stealth Rock. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think the ground type wasn't played to the best of their abilities. But I hope you guys all enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on this. Obviously, I'll be more clear with certain things as we keep going. But I wanted to analyze these because, you know, Emvee's a good player. He's my friend. And I appreciate him passing me these. He passed me a whole bunch of different things, but I want to keep this episode shorter than the rest. But as you guys submit them, you guys, again, you're going to go to pokeaimMD.com, click on the Aim Higher link, and just submit everything that it says there. It can be Wi-Fi battles, it can be replays, it can be Draft League games, it can be Pokemon Battle Revolution games. Shoot, maybe you played a random battle really well, even though I'm probably not the best to analyze that. But it could be anything like that. I just want to know what you... I just want to see, you know, what you're made of, whatever. And obviously, it's a good way to link you down below, and obviously for people to learn. And again, even if you're a higher level player and you're like, man, I don't need this, dude, I know what these things do. That's great. I mean, then do this for your own replays, because that'll help you play better. Trust me. But yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed. I guess again, I'm gonna give a big shout out to Jambat as well. He actually recently did something like this on his channel too. Though for some reason my marker wasn't working, so I'll fix it for the next ones. But he has a great book out. He's working on, I think, 2 or 3 other ones, if I'm not mistaken. But he has a great book out. If you guys want to check it out, the link is down below. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.